spending 20 years in leadership positions with organizations of all sizes, from startups to mid-sized public companies. He founded Fortune's Path to help businesses and business people get more of what they want by helping others. Today, he runs Fortune's Path and writes and podcasts about how virtue and love can create monopoly profits and agile organizations. He also talks a lot about raising kids and being a husband. He lives in Nashville, Tennessee, in the United States. Folks, Henry Ford once said, people don't know what they want until you show it to them. That's why he never relied on market research. And as leaders, our task is to read things that are not yet on the page. That was a philosophy which Henry Ford used to follow, and that's why he has built an empire. In today's episode, let's get Tom Nozer's insights on using power to get customers what they want, even when they don't know what they want. Hello, this is the Guiding Voice podcast series, TGV, for a better future. This podcast is to help professional students, IT employees, and entrepreneurs to shape their careers. So folks, if you haven't rated our podcast on Apple, request you to provide your rating and leave your candid review, because every rating and review will motivate us to bring in more and more useful content to you. If there is a constructive feedback, it will be taken with the right spirit and you will see us grow. This is your host, Naveen Samala, and I have about 18 years of rich and diverse experience in the IT industry. In every episode, we interact with industry experts or thought leaders or academicians or coaches across the globe to drive some insightful conversations that will help each one of you learn some amazing stuff. Also, we share an interesting trivia or a fun fact about the IT world or technology or relevant topic towards the end. So folks, you will learn more knowledge for every minute by tuning into TGV than any other podcast in this space. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we are pleased to have Tom, part of TGV's journey in shaping the careers and lives of millions across the globe. Tom, welcome to TGV. Thank you for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
All right. So Tom, let's get started. Let me ask you to share briefly about your career journey, especially emphasizing on top 3 things that have helped you so far.
Oh, wow. So it's funny. It's like, I'm not quite sure how I ended up where I am, but I'll do my best. So when I was in college, I was going to be a writer. I wanted to be a novelist, and it's hard to write books. So I went and taught 9th grade, got a master's in education, and really was going to write during the summers. Education, being a teacher, is still the foundation of how I approach my work as a product manager and as a writer and as a consultant. And I think that helping someone move from where they are to their next phase of development, and to try to do that in a way where you're supportive and non-judgmental and you have an open mind about what the outcome can be, is a real act of love. So that's how I try to approach my clients, is in a way to help them develop to that next phase that they can't do on their own.
To be a very interesting and fascinating journey. Like you wanted to be a novelist, and then and you ended up being an author as well. So which is very rare. Very few people have that particular instinct of getting what they want, right? And
right.
Tom, you mentioned about being non-judgmental and demonstrate love to acquire the clients, which is very interesting. I'll park that question for a while, but in the meantime, let's talk about core of today's topic. Like how to find out the customer's expectations, because even Steve Jobs also used to say the same thing, right? People don't know what they want until we show them. That's how he ended up creating some products like iPod and all the niche Apple products, right? Which came out of nowhere.
Well, it's really hard work. You have to understand the context of the problem extremely well. So, your famous example about the iPod, one apocryphal story is that they collected information about what was wrong with all the other MP3 players at the time. I actually think that's a very good way to approach a problem, is to understand what else is in the market and why doesn't it fit, and what are the changes that you could make to make it fit. You talked about Henry Ford earlier. He has this famous quote about, if I'd asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. I think you have to take that with a grain of salt, because he also needed to understand that the Model T wasn't going to be successful if it was too expensive. He didn't build a car just for himself. He built a car that he felt fit the market at the time. And his objective was to have, everybody in America drive a car. So he knew he had to hit the right price point. There were certain sorts of features that were going to make it more attractive. So I think there's a tendency sometimes for product managers to get a little arrogant and to think, well, I'm going to tell the market what it needs. And that's a sure way to failure, is to approach it with, I'm convinced I have the better idea, and I'm going to try to educate the market about why this is better. It's a tough proposition.
Wow. So someone should start studying the problems that are existing with the current products, and that will give us better ideas. That's quite insightful. So let's talk about the IT software products. Like, why do these software products fail, and how can we turn them around?
Yeah, it's so adoption drives value. If people don't use it, then the software doesn't have value. Most of my experience is in enterprise software, and particularly in healthcare. So in that space, the people who buy the software are not the people who use the software. The people who are buying the software are buying an idea. They're buying a promise that something better will happen as a result of the software. But the people who use the software determine about whether that idea actually happens and if that promise is achieved. But because of the sort of separation between the people who write the checks and the people who actually use the software, a lot of the times the software is written more from the standpoint of, if someone asks, can it, I always want the answer to be yes. It can do anything you want it to do. And the problem then is you have too many features. And I actually believe most software fails not because it has too few features, but because it has too many.
I resonate with you. The other day I was referring to some article, and I came across a whopping fact, which was quite surprising to me. Like, more than 60% of the features in a particular software are not used at all.
Yep.
But again, you brought in an interesting perspective. Like, if you consider the sales pitch versus the actual item that is being delivered or shipped, right? There is a lot of difference out there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge gap.
Absolutely. Yeah. These are quite useful. Now let's move on and talk about creating the product vision. Like, what are your tips around creating a compelling product vision so that we can attract more customers?
Yeah, you're trying to align your self-interest with the self-interest of your audience. And I always want to err on the side of what is in the interest of the audience. So if you collect enough people, if you can attract enough people to what you're doing, eventually you can find a way to monetize it. That's how platform software was designed, was that the value of it goes up exponentially by the usage. So you've got to make sure in your vision that you're doing something that drives that usage. The other thing you're trying to do in your vision is to create a competitive moat. Monopolies are illegal, but they're awfully fun to have. So I'm trying to find some way to develop a product that's unique in the market and that people will use and pay a premium for because they love it. And so in my vision, I'm trying to figure out, how do I build that monopoly? How do I build that competitive moat? And some of it is just being aware of the context of your audience. And I love what you said at the beginning of the program about our job as leaders is to read what hasn't been written yet. And the other thing is it's to admit when we're wrong too. So you want to have a point of view, and but as you get additional information from the market, don't fall in love with that model. Don't fall in love with that vision. You have to be continually changing.
Wow. I love that. Understanding the interest of the audience and then driving the usage, because once you have the usage, then we will get to know whether somebody is really willing to pay for our services, right? So
yes.
Thank you for sharing those amazing insights. Now, Tom, let's get back to the love topic. Like, how can we how can we love our customers, and how can we the differentiator in terms of adding that?
So I have 3 kids, and they're in their 20s now. And I believe that the relationship between a business and customers is similar to the relationship between parents and children. So customers come to us because we can do something they either can't do themselves or they don't want to do themselves. But we need to do that in a responsible way. So just like when my kids were small, there was a lot of things I had to do for them that they couldn't do for themselves. As they grow older, they can now do that stuff for themselves. Well, your relationship with your customers may change the same way, particularly in consulting. So when I start out, I may be doing something that my customers can't do themselves, but eventually I want to place someone there who can do what I'm doing so I can move on to more of an advisory role. Just like as my kids grow up, I'm now, if they ask, I'm an advisor. So that love is, I'm trying to have self-interest rightly understood. I want to do what's best for them, but I'm also doing it in a context of what's helpful for me. So some of that is guiding the conversation, suggesting the next right thing to do, anticipating where problems are going to be, and taking responsibility and communicating honestly. So just like some of the most important things I've done as a parent is apologize to my children. I think some of the greatest things we can do for relationships with our customers is admit when we were wrong and make amends in a way that is responsible for the health of the business, but is also respectful to the client.
Wow, that's a stunning analogy. I am really fascinated by the kind of relation that you have drawn between the parents and the kids. So is the case with the business and the customers. Fantastic stuff. So this has been a fabulous conversation so far. And Tom, now let's talk briefly about your company, Fortune's Path, and what are kind of certain services that you offer.
So our motto is find your genius. And it goes back to that idea of being an educator and helping people get to that next level of development or next level of performance. Most of our experience is in software companies, particularly SaaS, and lots in the healthcare business. So helping people create urgency in buyers and avoid rework and waste in their development process. And we have a variety of different approaches, but primarily it just starts with listening and try to understand the client, understand their particular needs. It's funny, when I started this business, I thought I was going to make services a product where everybody would kind of get the same thing. Now I'm completely against that. I'm like, you need a custom suit. I don't want to give everybody the same thing anymore. I want to give them what's exactly appropriate for their circumstance. And our objective is to have intense short-term engagements that result in a visible, significant difference in performance and in the state of the company, and then to leave and be beloved when we're gone. So a little bit like, again, the kids go off to college and they don't need to hang out with us anymore.
Wow. All right. I think there is a dire need for the companies to operate with the minimum budget and always constrained with the resources and all. And definitely Fortune's Path services are going to be helpful. And as you rightly said, I think there is no one custom solution that fits everybody. Right. So looks like it's a fascinating space to be in.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I'm actually, so my experience is mostly in product management. And I've actually decided that I'm against the idea of having a role called product manager. I want everybody in an organization to practice the discipline of product management to the point to where we don't need product managers anymore.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's a very good expectation, because if everybody starts speaking the same language and have the same expectations, then client won't be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's also it makes the job more fun because you're focused on that positive outcome for customers.
Yeah, maybe involving this cross-functional folks. That's what I'm a Lean Six Sigma practitioner and all, and I keep telling this. Hey, if you are working on a problem related to marketing, probably you call somebody from product management or technology. You never know, some out of the box solution might be proposed, might come your way.
Yeah, that's collaboration is the hardest work in the world. It's much easier to stay in your office and to do your own thing. But typically the quality of what you produce won't be as high as if you can get those points of view from other folks.
Absolutely. So Tom, this has been a fabulous conversation so far. And let's add some spice to the episode to lighten up the conversation. And I would be asking you a few interesting rapid fire questions if you are ready.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Let me fire the first bullet out of the rapid fire. So Tom, given a chance, would you time travel to past or future?
I love this question. I've been asking people this question. I think it's fabulous. I would absolutely go to the future, no doubt. I'm excited about what possibilities there are. I know my sons and my daughters are in their 20s and they're worried about the future. They're concerned that global warming or social unrest or it's just the rise of fascism and authoritarianism, I ought to say, rather than social unrest. Those things are major concerns with them, sort of the threats we have to democracy. I am much more optimistic and believe that the future is going to be better than the past. So I'm going to the future.
Absolutely. I would like to see this space tourism happen. So I would also come along with you.
Thanks. I mean, we can go to Mars together.
Absolutely. All right.
It'd be good.
Yeah. Let's move on to my next question. So Tom, given a chance, which celebrity would you like to meet?
Oh my goodness. Well, he's dead, but I'd love to meet Jesus. So I don't think it would be really interesting to meet any of the great spiritual figures and ask them if sort of the whole God thing is something that they asked about, or is that just something that their followers added on to them later? But for people who are living today, I think I'd like to meet Putin, just because he's such a jerk. And to see someone like that, there could be no better counterexample than to understand Vladimir Putin. And I hope he's an unhappy man. And so I would want to meet him and sort of see for myself, like, does he seem like he's just sort of never at ease? Is he always a little tense or looking over his shoulder, or does he have kind of some quirk that would make me feel better about what a rotten person he is?
Interesting. Let me move on to my next question. So Tom, what is one hidden talent that no one knows about you?
Oh my goodness. I can make a really good set of scrambled eggs. So I put either sour, what is it? The spread we put on bagels. That is cream cheese. I put either cream cheese or half and half in them. So they're kind of heavy scrambled eggs, and then you undercook them. And I just think they're delicious. So I can make really good scrambled eggs. Wow. If you like them the way I like them.
I like them too. All right.
Well, on our trip to Mars, I'll make you some eggs.
I would definitely love to visit you.
Yeah.
All right. Let me move on to my next question. Tom, money or fame?
Money or fame? Oh my goodness. Probably money. I mean, with fame gives you an opportunity to have influence, and money does as well. So I think that there's probably nothing that, if you have enough money, that fame can buy you that money can't. But the thing about money really is that it's the opportunity to give it away. I'm really fascinated by the ancient idea of, and I'm going to mispronounce this word, but munificence, which is that I have achieved so much, and now I have the opportunity to spread that wealth, to give that away, to do things for the public good. And to me, that's a lot more interesting than people talk about me when I'm not there.
Oh yeah, I think that's, I'm going to research further on that particular word. Mm-hmm. Did you say
I think it's munificence, and it's Yeah, it's a Greek concept
Oh,
of you achieve tremendous wealth and then you give that wealth
yeah.
away. And so you have this effect where you can transform your society by, people build hospitals, or they start universities, or there's a lot of other things. But to me, I don't want to create an institution which exists for itself. I like the idea of it's just giving it away. So, I mean, if people who are particularly wealthy gave $10,000 to the people around them who are poor, they would cure poverty. People are poor because they have no money. They're not poor because they didn't go to school.
Yeah, but we see this common trend, like once you earn a lot of money, people get into this philanthropy stuff. My Bill Gates is a best example, right? And so is the case with Ratan Tata and Ajim Premji in India, in case if you have heard of them, right? Yeah. All right.
I think it's, I mean, Bill Gates is going to, his impact as a philanthropist is going to be vastly greater historically than his impact was as an entrepreneur and an inventor. And so more power to him. We never got a chance to see what Steve Jobs would have done, or if he would have done anything. And so as a kid, I always rooted for Steve Jobs over Bill Gates. And as an adult, although there's, the recent allegations that Bill Gates may not be that nice a guy, the fact that he's given away that money, whether he's a nice guy or not, is still a positive thing.
Yeah. All right. So let me fire the last bullet out of the rapid fire. So if not IT, like you started with healthcare and all. Yeah. Right. So where would you have been in case if it was not IT?
Not IT, I would have liked to have been a movie director. And I never went to Hollywood. So when I was going to told you I wanted to be a novelist, and I also wrote screenplays, and I've been fascinated by movies my whole life. But when I was young, my wife, I didn't ask her to go to Hollywood. I didn't say, I have this dream, let's go pursue this dream together. I used her as an excuse not to do it. And that was not anything about Anna. That was just me being a coward. So if not IT, I would have loved to have gotten into Hollywood.
Very interesting. All right. So this has been a great rapid fire. With that, let me flip back to the mainstream and ask you one final question for this conversation.
Sure. Yeah.
So Tom, what will be your one piece of advice to those aspiring to make big in their careers?
Oh, wow. I would say just do something. There's a lot of times when you're young where if you've gotten have a supportive family, and if you've gotten an education, you may have choices, and those choices can be paralyzing. So nothing that you do is forever. What's important is that you get started doing something, even if you hate it, because you'll learn a lot from a job, even if you hate it. It's very acceptable now to have a strange looking resume where you did a little of this and a little of that, and then you traveled and you did something else. I would say just get active and get out and meet people, because that's how you're going to learn. And don't be judgmental about whether it's what you think is the right thing or what fits your resume or fits your career ladder. That's all junk. And all those people's careers only make sense in retrospect. When they're actually happening and going forward, it feels totally random. And a lot of cases it is. You just happen to have a conversation with someone and you hit it off, but you can't plan that stuff. So my advice to people just starting out is get out and get active. And it really doesn't matter very much what it is.
These are extremely helpful tips. So Tom, this conversation has been fantastic, and thank you so much for joining us today.
I had a great time. Thank you so much for asking me. And I can't wait to go to Mars. So I'll bring the eggs.
Me too. Let's have the scrambled eggs on Mars.
That's right. I love it. That's perfect.
Yeah, great. All right. So folks, before we move into trivia section, here is a request to you. If you have loved this episode and found it useful, please subscribe to us from where you have tuned in. Also, share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who can benefit from this show. The more you share, the wider we reach. Thank you so much in advance. All right. So let's hop on to the trivia segment of today's episode. Folks, today's trivia is about customer experience, but this time I'm not going to ask you a question, but share a few facts. 68% of the customers are in a survey that was conducted recently. About 68% of the consumers said they are willing to pay more for products and services from a brand known to offer good customer service experiences. And for about 86% of them, good customer service turns one-time clients into long-term brand champions. The reason is, if you satisfy your customer and then win their loyalty, they are going to come back to you and also bring you more and more customers. Interesting, isn't it? Thank you so much for tuning in. There is more in store, folks. Stay tuned. Take care. Be safe. Until next time. Bye-bye. We're signing off for today. See you all in the next episode with another wonderful guest.